Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And it's time for another exciting interview episode. My guest today is real estate investor, wealth educator, and philanthropist Rennie Gabriel, who went from being broke at age 50 to becoming a multi-millionaire after learning the secrets of the wealthy. Rennie's philosophy is that when we take care of ourselves financially, then we can build wealth with a purpose. And when we do, we can give back to help those who are suffering and create a better, more transformative and thriving world. And I think it's high time we talked about some of those limiting beliefs around money that are holding us back from creating the wealth we all desire. So I'm looking forward to this conversation today. Welcome, Rennie, and thank you so much for taking the time to be on my show today.
Thank you so much, Claudia. It's my pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, it's my pleasure. So, Rennie, as I mentioned in the short intro, you went from being broke to becoming a multi-millionaire. And the question that probably all our listeners are having right now is, how the heck did you do that? So can you please share what led you to being broke in the first place, and then what you did to achieve financial freedom?
Absolutely. And yes, I was broke. I had 2 divorces. I had a business failure in the art gallery business. And so those things kind of tapped my reserves. As a matter of fact, I was so broke at one point in time, I actually collected soda bottles and cans to get the refund money so I could buy food for my family.
Wow.
So I know what it's like to be really broke. And by the time I was 50, I'm having to start all over after the divorces and the business failure. And the most important thing about how I did it is that I did not do it by myself. And I created the expression, wealth creation is a team sport, not a solo sport. I used a concept that's 5,000 years old called pay yourself first. Oh, Claudia, can I put you on the spot?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, fine. So have you heard of the expression pay yourself first?
Yes, I have. I heard it in your TED Talk.
Oh, that's cheating.
I know.
Okay, well, let's try another question. So you saw me talk about it in the TED Talk, but can you explain it now?
Well, I think what you said in the talk was, when you have a business and you pay all the bills that are coming in, and at the end of the month, there's nothing left for you, then you're doing it wrong. So you should start by paying yourself first and then pay all the rest of the bills.
Yes, exactly. And a part of that is the money that you're paying yourself first with, you're setting aside to keep forever. That's not money that'll be used when something goes wrong. It'll not be used if you're short 1 month in payroll. It's the money that never leaves your hands, but instead you're investing it so that at some point in time, work can become a choice instead of a requirement. So here's another question. I'm putting you on the spot again, because I could guarantee 9 out of your 10 listeners are going to be in the exact same situation when you answer this question. So you heard about it in my TED Talk, so you're now familiar with it. Are you doing it?
Yeah, I would say I'm doing it. And I started investing a couple of years ago because I came to the same conclusion that you drew in your TED talk, that sometimes you have, or not sometimes, you have to invest money to make money, which was a very foreign concept for me. And it felt so uncomfortable to do that.
Yes.
And
Okay, great.
we will come back to that and talk about that in more detail. But maybe we can go back to your personal story and just walk us through what you did to get out of that terrible situation.
Okay, perfect. So I was using the concept pay yourself first. It was a third time in my life I was doing it, and I felt I had to get serious. I'm 50 years of age. If you're looking at a situation traditionally where people talk about stopping work at age 65, and I don't like to use the word retire. I mean, that's what they do with cows when they can't produce milk anymore and they want them to die into the pasture. So I don't talk about retirement. I talk about having complete financial choice. So I looked at 15 years down the road, am I going to be eating cat food or am I going to be eating tuna? And I said, this time I've got to put it together. So I was only earning $5,000 a month. I set aside $500 a month to keep. And in 3 years, I saved up a whopping $18,000. Now, this is where the story transforms. I say wealth creation is a team sport, not a solo sport, because my wife at the time had a realtor who came to me and said, Rennie, you should buy this 3-unit property. It's a great investment. The only problem is in Los Angeles, $18,000 won't buy anything. So my wife chipped in $18,000 and the realtor said, you know what, this is such a good deal. I'm chipping in $36,000, and it took the three of us to create the down payment.
Right.
And since I'm struggling, I'm only making $5,000 a month, we couldn't hire plumbers and painters and all those folks to do a lot of the work. So I literally did a lot of the work. But in 5 years, that little property grew in value by $500,000.
Nice.
And so my little $18,000 in 5 years became worth $125,000. And what I saw was that this was working. And here's a concept of the wealthy. They use debt to create wealth. Mm-hmm. So I borrowed money to make down payments on more apartment buildings with the realtor and my wife. And within 5 years, we had gone from that first 3-unit purchase to adding another 47 units we owned and managed.
Wow. That's a lot of units.
Yeah. So by age 58, I saved for 3 years. I'm 53. By age 58, I had millions of dollars of net worth and could choose to work or choose to not work.
That's such an inspiring and empowering story. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome, Claudia. And like I said, the most important part is I did not do it by myself.
Yeah. As a mindset coach, I'm probably biased in thinking that mindset plays a crucial role for creating financial abundance. That's why I'd like to hear your point of view. From your experience, how important is mindset when it comes to creating wealth?
I'd say it's probably only crucial.
Okay. It's only crucial. That's good.
Yeah. Well, if Henry Ford really said it the best. He said, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And that's the mindset. Now, I was fortunate in that 14 years prior to purchasing this 3-unit property, I had taken a class at UCLA on how to buy and manage apartment buildings, which I also now teach. But the point was, 14 years earlier, I was educated on what it took. And now I had the opportunity to put it into practice.
Right. You have to have the mindset and you have to take the action. You can't.
Exactly.
Have
so I believed I could do it because I'd taken this class and I still had all of the material and the resources. And now I got to test it in the real world.
Yeah, that's so true. You have to take the action, otherwise you don't get the results. I mean, as I said, I believe that the right money mindset is pretty important because if you want to develop a better relationship with money, we often have to overcome a lot of negative conditioning. So when I think back to my own childhood, where I picked up quite a few of limiting beliefs around money, some of them were along the lines of there's never enough money to go around, or money is hard to come by, or maybe rich people are only rich because they took money away from other people. So you can either be rich or you can be good, but you cannot be both. And those are some seriously negative beliefs around money, right? So what makes matters worse, oftentimes those beliefs are subconscious, meaning we are not consciously aware of them, but they still determine the decisions we make and the results we see in our lives. So I'm curious, what beliefs around money did you pick up during your childhood, and how did those beliefs shape your relationship with money?
There were some beliefs I had to undo. As an example, money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's a limited supply. And it's not true. The reality is money is manufactured. I mean, there is no limit to it. It's not a zero-sum game where if I have some, I've taken it away from you and now you have less. We can both have more. It's just, it's a construct. It's not a reality. It's not like, there's some limited resource because money is just great. Well, think of it this way. About 12, 13, maybe it was 14 years ago, some guy decided to invent something called a cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. It's now money. It's used as money. It didn't even exist 14, 15 years ago. So if you just use that one example, you can understand how money is not limited. Another aspect to the same situation is, like you said, it's the mindset. It's what we believe. As an example, there are a lot of myths around money. And what I did in my book, we'll just touch on that for a second, but I took the first third of the book to deal with the attitudes and emotions that get in the way of creating wealth before I talk about any tips or techniques or things to do. Because, let me give you an example. Claudia, do you know what it takes to lose weight?
Probably you have to exercise and you have to have a proper diet.
Yeah, it's not complicated. It's, what you eat and are you moving? Okay.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. Now, next question. I hope you don't mind. I'm continually putting you on the spot.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Do you know any obese people?
Not in my direct circle of people. No, actually, I don't. But
okay.
In general, I know that there are obese people. Yeah.
All right. And as a guess, would you guess that they probably know that if they ate less and moved, they could probably lose weight?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if even obese people know that, but they're not doing it, something's in the way. And that's the emotional stuff we talked about. That's the mindset stuff we talked about. As an example, one of the attitudes I had in my first marriage was it doesn't matter how much money I make, I'll never have enough. I'll never have anything. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is no matter how much money I made, my wife made sure to spend more of it. And that was the attitude that I had. And that's what I ended up having to fight against and transform. So we all have these limiting beliefs, and until we get in touch with them, and that's what I use the first third of the book for, is to ask the questions to get in touch with them. Like, how did your mother handle money when you were growing up? How did your father handle money when you were growing up? Are your attitudes like your father or your mother? Did you think you were rich or poor? I mean, those kind of questions do several things. It breaks up the kind of conversations that we have internally that may be subconscious and brings them up to the surface. And in a relationship, if the couple separately answers those questions and comes together and have conversations about it, they can now begin to have safe conversations about money, where a lot of couples have arguments over money instead.
That's so important. I totally agree. And overcoming those limiting beliefs and rewiring those associated neuronal pathways is something that I help my clients with as well. So I'd love to hear how things changed for you when you started to change your own money mindset. What did you do to change those limiting beliefs around money? And did you maybe follow a specific practice, or did it just evolve organically?
I began to follow a specific practice, and it started in my 40s. So even though I was broke at 50, I was laying the groundwork in my 40s. And one of the things that, I'm getting back to wealth creation's a team sport. I went into a 12-step program that was called Debtors Anonymous. Mm-hmm. I thought that if I just made more money, things would work out. I started my life as a school teacher, and I earned $6,500 for that first year. And I was $100 a month short. So I got out of teaching school and went into sales, and I doubled my income. And now I was $200 a month short. And then I went into the insurance business because I figured I would sell a product that's been around for a long time. It'll probably continue to be around for a long time. It won't be a flash in the pan. And so I learned about money, becoming an insurance agent. And my income had gone up over many years. And the year I made $102,000, I was now short $24,000 a year.
Oh, goodness.
Or $2,000 a month. And so I'm thinking, obviously making more money is not working. And this is when I went into that 12-step program. And what I learned was handling your expenses is the first priority, and you grow your income second. And it turned around completely. And I dropped $24,000 of expenses, and my income increased to $150,000. So when it's sort of like I'm going to get a little bit of woo-woo here for a moment, okay? And then I'll get more to the practical. So the woo-woo approach is, the universe recognized I finally knew how to handle money more effectively and gave me more of it. Okay? And the other approach is, I recognized I was handling money more effectively, and the conversation about the more money I make, it won't make any difference. I'll still have nothing. I was able to discard and make more money and have more money.
Yeah. Absolutely. Can you maybe remember the first aha moment where you felt like, wow, I did it. I've really changed my experiences around money, and I'm now able to create that financial abundance. Is that a special moment for you?
Yeah, it would be from this 12-step program and getting rid of $2,000 a month of expenses and then having my income grow by $50,000. That was when I realized there was a turning point. That was in my second marriage before my divorce, where I had, lost it and had to start over again. But the key now was I knew I could rebuild it. Right. Even if I'm only earning $5,000 a month, I can still do something powerful with it.
Yeah. And for all our listeners out there who are itching to get started with creating more financial abundance, would you please go into more detail about those 3 secrets of the wealthy that you use to create your own wealth?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, I didn't realize what these 3 secrets were until after I'd accomplished it. Had I known about this up front, it'd have probably been a little easier. I use an acronym, AFI, to remember these 3 secrets. And there are secrets that the wealthy know that ordinary people are not aware of. And the acronym AFI has nothing to do with the American Film Institute. Okay. The A stands for attitude. And as a mindset coach, you can understand how powerful that is.
Yeah.
And I can give you a couple of examples of the attitudes that are important. And I'll do that after I get through the next two secrets. The second one, the F, stands for forms. Now, most of us has filled out the same forms that the wealthy fill out, whether it's an income and expense statement or it's a balance sheet for the bank if we're going for a loan or to buy a home or something of that nature. But they look at their assets differently than ordinary people. And again, I'll get to that, when I talk about the attitudes. And I'm going to cough, excuse me. And the third, the I, stands for investments. And too many people think that when it comes to investing, they're limited to stocks, bonds, or mutual funds. And that is not what the wealthy are limited to. There's limited partnerships, there's syndications, there's real estate investment trust, there's trust deeds, there's tax liens, there's tax certificates, there's equipment leasing. I mean, there's board and care facility. I could go on and on and on with dozens of investments that are available to the wealthy that ordinary people are often not even aware of. So those are the three secrets. They have a different attitude. They look at the forms differently because of that attitude. And they're aware of far more investments that are available to them than ordinary people. As an example, one of the things that I didn't mention with that list was your own business. Here is something you could be investing in that you have control over, as opposed to giving your money to someone else when you buy a stock and you have no control over it. And that was one of my issues in my life is I had control issues. And that's why real estate was a good fit. We could choose where we would buy, what we would buy, who we would rent it to, when we would sell it, if we'd remodel it, if we'd refinance it. We were in control.
Yeah, I totally get that. So to summarize, we should all consciously cultivate a positive money mindset. We should all track our income and expenses, and we should invest wisely. Does that sound about right?
Yes. And I have the forms that people can use. I wrote a book called The Attitudes of the Wealthy that have like 31 or 32 different attitudes. And I'll give you a good example. I'll give you one of those attitudes. Mm-hmm. And I've talked about wealth creation being a team sport. That is an attitude. Another one is the wealthy people look at an investment from the standpoint of the big picture first and the details second. Claudia, have you heard of the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out, what does that have to do with anything? I don't really understand what that's trying to tell me. And so I came up with a little different explanation of that being the big picture versus the details, because that's what's so important in investing. So now, did your parents tell you, your mother, your father, one of them, when you cross the street to look both ways?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to use the big picture versus the details. What would be the details in crossing the street, such as the height of the curb? I mean, what examples might you think of in terms of crossing the street that you'd want to focus on? The details.
Any street signs, maybe?
Yeah. Traffic lights, street signs, how high the curb is so you don't trip. Maybe there's a puddle of water you want to walk around, or dog mess you don't want to step in, or an open sewer cover that you don't want to fall into. If you kept your eyes straight down and focused on these details, is this a safe way to cross the street?
No.
Okay, what's the big picture?
Big picture is look for the potential danger. Look for the
Which
car.
might be a bus or truck coming down the street. Yeah. Exactly. And this is what people do when it comes to investments. They might look at all the details. Let's say, we'll go back to real estate. Let's say that you wanted to buy a second home that you were going to rent out. And you were checking out a house. And as you're walking up to the house, you notice all the grass is dead. There's paint peeling on the exterior. You walk inside, the walls have peeling paint. The carpet is frayed. The faucet is dripping water. And you say, oh, this is horrible. Okay. Those are the details. The big picture is this house well built and is it in a good neighborhood? Because location is crucial.
Yeah.
If the big picture is good, you buy the house and you take care of the details. But if all you did was focus on the details, you could be passing up a fabulous investment opportunity.
That is so true. That is so true. And I'd love to dig a little deeper into that distinction between good investments versus bad investments. Because as I mentioned before, I think investing money to make money is still a concept that is very foreign to a lot of people. So for instance, when I grew up, I saw how hard my parents had to work to get out of debt. And I decided very early on that I never wanted to take on any debt. That was just, my decision. I never wanted to do that. So I managed to stay debt-free most of my life. And it actually was only a couple of years ago that I realized that while being debt-free brought me peace of mind, it wasn't a smart financial decision in the long run. And that's when my husband and I started to invest in real estate. So we have actually done the exact same thing. And I have to say, it felt super scary, even though I consciously knew that it was a smart decision. And that discomfort and resistance is an indicator that there were still subconscious blocks around money and investing that I needed to clear. Because even as a mindset coach, I'm not perfect when it comes to mindset. I think nobody is. It's definitely a journey. And I have to update my own mindset and my own beliefs and work through all those challenges as they come up. And here's one of the common problems that I see with a lot of ambitious entrepreneurs, especially those who are just starting out. So they try to squeeze as much money out of their business as they possibly can without reinvesting in themselves or in their business. And even if they do invest, many of them invest in shiny objects and tech and tools, and fewer invest in themselves or in personal development and coaching, for instance. And I totally get it because it's not tangible and they don't see that immediate return on investment. They often think that they will invest in high-level coaching once their business is successful or even more successful, which is kind of backwards because as we have already discussed, mindset is such a big piece of the success formula, and not working on yourself and identifying your blind spots is slowing your progress down, right? So what's your opinion on investing in coaching and self-development? Is this a good or bad investment from a wealth creation point of view?
Well, from my standpoint, I have been coached by someone, let's see, I don't know, it's 25 years, maybe it's 30 years. He and I have coached each other because we happened to meet in a program where we were business coaches for entrepreneurs. And we decided, well, why don't we coach each other? And we've been doing that for, like I said, it's 25 or 30 years. I'd have to go back and figure it out. Yeah, here's an analogy that I think works when it comes to the business owner who thinks when his business is profitable, that's when he'll invest in the coaching. If you were ill and sick, when you had pneumonia, you had COVID, whatever it is, would you wait until you were healthy before you went to the doctor?
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But that's the mindset of people when it comes to the money and investing in themselves. When I'm successful, then I'll invest in myself. No, it's investing in yourself that creates the success. Right. And let me give some other examples of some very high level people that everybody's familiar with, because when it comes to growing a business, It is not a solo activity. I kept saying wealth creation's a team sport, not a solo sport. It's the same thing with growing a business. And let me give you some examples. Even in Germany, Claudia, I'm sure you've heard of Warren Buffett, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who Charlie Munger is?
No, I've heard the name, but
Okay. But yeah, maybe you heard the name. You're not sure. Okay. Guess what? Charlie Munger happens to be half of Berkshire Hathaway.
Right.
Warren Buffett is what's called a visionary. And Charlie Munger happens to be an execution master. He executes on Warren's vision. When it came to building the real estate, the realtor was a visionary, and I was the execution manager. I posted the ads for new tenants. I interviewed them. I would put them in the property. I would take care of their concerns. I would hire the tradespeople. I executed on what needed to be done. But the realtor was the visionary. He found the properties that we needed to buy. He negotiated the purchases. And I just, was the execution master. It made me a multi-millionaire. So it's not a problem. Just like Charlie Munger is a multi-billionaire, just like Warren Buffett, and he's only the execution master. Let me give you another example. You've heard of Apple Computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Steve Jobs. Well, if it wasn't for Steve Wozniak, there would be no Apple computers because he was able to construct what Steve Jobs had as a vision. Mm-hmm. He was the engineer who could create the product. Now, you've probably also heard of Elon Musk, right?
Yep.
Most people know Elon Musk knows nothing about building cars. And that's true. But he has a guy named Julian Gouliard or something like that who runs Tesla. He doesn't know about spaceships, but Gwen Shotwell is running SpaceX. Elon Musk is a visionary. He's not building cars or building rocket ships. He did just buy Twitter. And he's one of the richest men in the country. But the point is, he is not doing this by himself. And any of your, people who are thinking about becoming one of your clients need to recognize you could be the person who helps them grow their business. And working with that mindset. It is just so crucial. And so it doesn't matter if it's building a business or creating wealth, it is still a team sport.
Yeah. And as you said, you need vision and implementation. Just like we said before, you need mindset and action. Those two have to align and come together for you to create the results that you want to see. And taking this into a slightly different direction, I recently came across a quote by someone we already mentioned on this episode today, by Henry Ford. And it's a quote that I really, really loved. So he said, "A business that makes nothing but money is a poor business." And I love that quote because it goes against a common belief about money and businesses. And in my humble opinion, entrepreneurship is not just about the money. Now, that might sound naive, but I believe it's also about empowering yourself to create a better world. And money is just a catalyst that helps you realize your version of a better world. So it allows you to support causes and people that are important to you. So what are your thoughts on creating wealth with a purpose, and what does that purpose look like for you?
It's so funny because I just created, not me by myself, my team and I just created a program called Wealth with Purpose.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And, I try and lead by example in that since I don't have to work for a living, I donate 100% of the profits from my business to various charities that save dogs and support veterans and soldiers. One of the charities, as a matter of fact, was called Shelter to Soldier, where dogs were rescued from environments where they would have been euthanized, and they are trained as service animals for soldiers who've come back with PTSD or traumatic brain injuries, and they can become contributing members of society again. So I've used the profits from my business to rescue dogs and support the soldiers who in the United States provide us with the opportunities to live life and be free to make the kind of choices that people in Russia maybe can't make.
That sounds like a great charity. And thank you so much for contributing to such a worthy cause and saving 2 lives in the process. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I've said wealth creation is a team sport often enough. There are myths that people buy into when it comes to money, and we've discussed some of them. But one of the important ones is, and you were talking about wanting to be debt-free. I'm going to put you on the spot again.
Okay.
All right. Let's say you had no debt. You had no credit card debt. You had no mortgages. You had no auto loans. You had absolutely no debt. That's all I'm saying. You had no debt. Would you have financial freedom?
No.
No. Why not?
Because I would still wouldn't have the money to do whatever I wanted. I would just...
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to buy groceries. You wouldn't pay your utility bills. That requires an income. And the only way to produce that income if you're not working is to have assets that are generating that income instead. So the fact that people work toward being debt-free does not mean they built up assets that generate an income. And I have seen that over and over again. So the point is, don't work on being debt-free. Work on creating assets that'll generate an income.
That is such a good advice. And that's exactly the conclusion that I came to a couple of years ago as well. And I thought, I should have started that earlier, but okay. And so it's also about timing. I mean, you have said it often enough. It's a team sport. And at that point in time, we actually bought a house with a friend of ours. So we were a team. We did it together. Mm-hmm. We shared the vision and we shared the work because we actually renovated it all by ourselves, more or less. So it was a lot of work, but yeah, it pays off in the end. And we have created this asset that is now worth so much more than it was in the beginning. So I totally get it, but I know that this can be very difficult for people who are afraid of accumulating debt and just, seeing the big negative number on your bank account statement or something like that. It's just, it can make people feel very afraid of, not being able to pay that back at some point in time.
And I completely understand it because I was in that same trap for so many years. And at this point in life, I pay all my credit cards off in full every month. But when I was not able to do it, it was such a burden.
Yeah.
And it was difficult because, well, think of it this way. If I'd have taken the $18,000 I saved up after 3 years, I could have used that to pay off my credit card debt. Mm. But instead, I invested that in a property that grew into $125,000 more money. Instead of having that, I could have just had no debt. Mm-hmm. So the choice would have been no debt or $125,000.
That's an easy choice.
Yeah, exactly.
In hindsight, it is.
Exactly. But emotionally, it was tough.
It is a tough choice to make. I totally get that. Now, last but not least, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to connect with you?
Well, if they can spell Rennie Gabriel, which isn't easy, if they type in Rennie, Rennie, and Gabriel is the last name into Google, they'll find my website. They'll see my books. They'll see I take up like 2 pages on Google.
Wow, so perfect. And thank you so much, Rennie, for sharing all those tips and insights with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Claudia. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. Take care and talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you did, please take a sec to rate and review my show or share it with a friend. That way you can support the show and help me reach and support other entrepreneurs like yourself as well. If you would like my help to figure out how you can go from overwhelmed and overworked hustler to empowered and confident leader, check out my website at www.wiredforsuccess.solutions and book a free 20-minute strategy session with me. Can't wait to help you get wired for success. Until next time, take care. Bye.